All right, everybody. Hello and welcome back to another video here with Wholeo Awakening and Thunder Dragon Neigong. Now, today we're going to be talking about the fundamental practice that we do here, which is Taijiquan, often called Tai Chi. Uh, in this video, we're going to talk about what it is, some of the core principles and qualities that are involved, and some of the different styles, how they developed, and what one can expect from your practice, what goes into your practice, and what you can get out of it. So today we're looking at understanding Taijiquan, the art of supreme polarity, the origins, principles, and practice. As always, before we begin, if you've not done so, make sure that you check out the links below, where we've got our other social pages, our website, for various other information, articles, videos, educational content. Be sure to like, subscribe, follow, whatever is applicable for wherever you're watching. Now, with that said, let's go ahead and begin. What is Taijiquan? Uh, Taijiquan is more often in the West called Tai Chi or Taijiquan. It generally just means supreme ultimate fist. Uh, Taiji is the expression of movement, of differentiation. This has to do with Taoist cosmology, where in the beginning, everything was formless and void, just as we see in biblical scripture and in most cultures around the world. Uh, this is called Wuji, where there is nothing, there is stillness, there is void. And then once differentiation begins, once movement begins, this is Taiji. This is the separation of light and dark, of yin and yang. Uh, in fact, the yin-yang symbol, which most of you have seen, the little white fish and the little black fish circling around each other, is actually called the Taiji Tu. It's the Taiji symbol. So the yin-yang symbol is the Taiji symbol. Uh, the Chun part, it just means fist, and it is often used just to refer to a martial art. So in this case, Taiji Chen is the martial art based on the philosophy of Tai Chi. It's a Taoist internal martial art, blending body, breath, and spirit. Now, the difference between the internal martial arts and the more well-known external martial arts, say like most karate that is done today is mostly external. Uh, BJJ, all the mixed martial arts things that are done are external martial arts, where the focus is on techniques and strengthening the body, strengthening the physical body, the muscles, the bones, and developing very precise techniques that can be executed. The internal martial arts differ in that it also has a primary focus on developing the internal qualities of the body, of the subtle tissues, the fascia, the interstitial fluids, the bioelectrical currents, the qi flow within the body, to have a more complete package, so to speak. Not that it does not also train the external body, the physical muscles, the bones, tendons, all of this, but that it also incorporates these subtle tissues and energies as well for a more complete system and a more balanced and health conscious system. So for example, one of the biggest problems with those who practice purely external martial arts is that you very quickly hit the point where your body is just beaten to a pulp and you're broken down with injuries. And just as you see with professional fighters, they have to retire often very, very young. Whereas one of the purposes is developing the internal body as well, the internal cultivation, is that you are regenerating, rejuvenating your tissues and able to prolong your health span in your practice, in addition to other uses that you might have both in martial arts and in health and healing and whatever you might do in those regard. Uh, a common, as I said, it's a common misunderstanding in internal arts that they're just uh, gentle, flowing relaxation techniques. This is not the case. You do have to develop a strong vessel to perform internal martial arts. Taijiquan requires a strong vessel. You can't skip the gym just because you're doing Tai Chi. In fact, your techniques will be totally useless if you don't have a strong vessel to contain and carry the energy that you're going to cultivate. And this can actually cause a lot of problems, especially if you go into the more traditional alchemical practices of Tai Chi and you don't have a strong body first. You can actually cause some pretty severe problems to your health. Um, Tai Chi is known for its flowing, circular movements and its meditative quality. You often see in Tai Chi, everything is done in circles. It's very little straight line movement. It's all circle, spiral, flowing movements. And it's a very calm, steady mindset. Whereas a lot of martial arts, you'll see they get really excited, really hyped up, and they get this adrenaline rush. In Tai Chi and in the internal martial arts, it's very meditative, very calm, very focused. Um, the idea being that we focus more on the internal power, which requires relaxation and lack of tension in order to flow properly. Whereas many of the external styles is all about creating as much tension as possible, making the body as hard as possible. So it's two different approaches. Now, uh, Tai Chi is rooted, as I said, in Taoist foundations, Taoist cosmology. Tai Chi represents the dynamic balance of yin and yang. Just as there is a light, there must be a dark, there's an up, there must be a down, a forward, and a backward. All of the opposites of life are actually two poles of one thing. And in Tai Chi, we recognize this and we always keep this in mind throughout the entirety of our practice. Whenever there is a movement forward, whenever there is advance, there is also mindfulness of retreat. There is something anchoring, holding back. Whenever something rises, there's always a rooting, a grounding. Everything that we do must be counterbalanced with an opposite force, maintaining this balance, this harmony of yin and yang. Movement arises from stillness. As I said, Tai Chi emerges from Wu Ji. Movement differentiation emerges from stillness, indifferentiation. Action comes from intention. The developing of the Yi, the mind, intention, then moves the Qi, the vital force, throughout the body. So Taijiquan is an integration of Taoist philosophy and natural law. So it is a martial art, but it is more than a martial art. It is a philosophical art as well. It is an art of health and wellness, developing and cultivating the vitality of the body, developing and cultivating the subtle energies, the subtle tissues of the body, as well as the more gross, substantial tissues in the body. The historical origins of Tai Chi, as most things in Chinese culture, are shrouded in mystery because Chinese culture, first, is so vast. The history is so vast, and there are so many different accounts of just about everything you can imagine. Uh, but the most popular legend of Tai Chi's inception is that of uh, Zhang Sangfeng, who was supposedly a monk from Wudang Mountain. And the story goes that he was observing the fight between a snake and a crane. He was watching the coiling movements of the snake and the graceful floating movements of the crane, and he was inspired to develop his own movements based on these qualities that he observed in the animals. And this is what eventually developed into Taijiquan. There's no way to know whether that actually happened or not, but that is the most popular legend of Tai Chi's inception. As far as verified history goes, the man named Chen Wangting from Qin village in China in about the 17th century, he was one of the familial heads of the Qin family, and he was the first. While the Qin family had this martial art that they had developed for many generations before Chen Wangting was credited as being the first to really bring it all together into a packaged system, which would become Qin-style Taijiquan. And it was an early synthesis of martial arts forms, Chinese medicine, and Daoyin practices. Daoyin is another style of practices that can be thought of as sort of a blend between yoga and qigong. It's one of the very ancient, very early practices in Chinese culture. Now, there are five major styles of Taijiquan still in existence today. Each of these styles has many sub-styles that branch out from it, and many different variations, as most of the masters of each style successively built their own uh, sub-styles based on the parent style. So you can think of it as each teacher, once they reach a certain level, sort of develop their own way of doing things that they would then pass on to their students, and so on and so forth. But there are five basic main family styles that we still have today. The first and the oldest being the Chen style, as I said, and it's really well known for its focus on Jin, the silk reeling, which is the spiraling, coiling motions, and Fajin, which is the explosive power. It's easily the most outwardly martial of the Taiji styles. From that came the Yang style, developed by Yang Luchan, who is one of, if not the first non-Qin family member to learn the Qin style and then developed his Yang style from that. And it, in general, is a smooth, larger frame style, and it is the most popular and widely practiced style in the world today. Typically, if you see people doing, classic Tai Chi in the park, it's going to be one of the simplified Yang styles. Then there's the Wu style, which developed from Yang. It's a subtle, compact style, whereas the Qin and Yang styles tend to have wider, broader stances and more movement, more obvious movements. The Wu style is more drawn in, more compact. And one interesting thing about the Wu style is that many of the postures have a distinct incline to them, a leaning forward motion in the posture. Then there's the Wu Hao style, which is even more tight, precise, and upright. It is very much focused on the internal alignment, the internal cultivation. It's done pretty much almost standing straight up, just very slight uh, bends, but it's very compact, very upright, and very much focused on the internal cultivation. And then similarly, the Sun style, which is also another upright style, but it's more agile, and it's a blend of the qualities of Taiji, Xingyi, and Bagua, which are the big three internal martial arts. Regardless of the family style that we're talking about, the core principles of Taijiquan remain. One is yin and yang, this balance and motion that we discussed. Another is the concept of song, which is relaxation or release. It is this idea of having a full release of tension in the body. Again, unlike the more fierce external styles, we don't want to have tension in the body because tension, while it toughens up the muscles for an impact, it actually impedes and hinders the flow of the subtle fluids and energies in the body. You can see this very easily by just clenching your fist and noticing that your fist turns white. There's no circulation, the blood's not getting through. So this is analogous to what we have in the body. If there's a lot of tension, the qi doesn't flow. you're not going to get this internal cultivation if there's too much tension in the body. So Song is the practice of releasing this tension. Now, it doesn't mean, as one of the common mistakes is, it doesn't mean, well, it's just relaxing yourself into the floor and falling asleep. You want to maintain your structural, postural integrity. It's often said to float the bones and sink the flesh. The flesh relaxes, but the skeletal structure must be impeccable at all times. We release the tension, we allow the skeleton to carry the body as it naturally should. The concept of rooting, this idea that we're always rooted into the ground, connected to the ground, so that we can deliver force and receive force. You'll often see masters doing these techniques with their students or with other practitioners, where they'll have someone push on them and they'll be able to, they might have several people, a line of people pushing on them, and they're just receiving it and without being moved. This is high level rooting, where we're able to take a force that's coming in to us, channel it down through proper alignment of the body, using the body as a tensegrity unit to take the force that comes in from one point, channeling it down through our root into the ground. So when you push on someone like that, it feels like you're really literally just pushing on the ground. So that the person is no longer resisting with muscular tension, but rather they're simply taking the force, diverting it straight into the ground, and simply being a medium between the aggressor and the ground. And vice versa, this can also be used to issue force from the ground into an opponent. Then there's the silk reeling, the chanci jin, which is most prominent in the Chen style, but it is present in all styles when done properly. And it's this spiraling, coordinated motion, whereas in Tai Chi, all things move in circles. No straight lines, everything circles, circle and flow. This again goes back to the philosophical balance of yin and yang, is one is always flowing and integrating into the other. Then there's Neijin, the internal power. Again, we focus on cultivating this internal force, the fascial networks, the interstitial fluids, the extracellular matrix. All of these things that we would use in health can also be used in martial practice as well. We want to develop cultivation of these internal powers and not simply rely on brute force. Then the E, the intention, the mind, directs the movement and the chi. Always maintain a focused and aware intention. These are some of the main principles of Tai Chi practice. Now, some of the main differences that we'll see along the lines of this internal-external dichotomy have to do with traditional Taijiquan practice and modern practice, modern popular Tai Chi that you'll see in the park. Traditional Taijiquan is focused on internal alchemy. The true goal of Taiji practice is a cultivation, the alchemical cultivation of the self, spiritually, philosophically, spiritually, um, developing the body physically by cultivating and refining the subtle tissues to improve health and vitality and vigor, gaining an awareness of and a control of all of the subtle energies of the body, and improving those qualities through our practice. It's very deep, very labor intensive, very, very long, dedicated process. Whereas most of the Tai Chi that people are doing nowadays is just a light wellness exercise. It's something just to relax, to breathe, to flow, to let go of the tension of the day. And this is fine because it does have a host of health benefits just from this very shallow basics level. In fact, as I always like to remind people, the vast majority of the modern scientific studies that have been done on Tai Chi practice are done just on this level. So all of the benefits that you might read about are referring to this just light exercise that is done today. So that's a wonderful thing. It's not to be disparaging to that, but it's just to say that the true alchemical practice of Tai Chi is a whole other level, not to be compared in the least. There's Neigong and Qi development in the traditional practice, the internal work, the development, cultivation of Qi, whereas the modern practice generally just focuses on learning the external forms, learning the movements, memorizing the forms, and just relaxing. The martial applications were a big part of original practice. Tai Chi is a martial art. In modern times, though, even amongst experienced practitioners, that you will very, very rarely find anyone who can use it effectively in a fight as a martial art. This is because the time and effort that goes into developing the methods of Tai Chi for martial practice is just something that most people today are not going to do. As I said, the cultivation of the physical body is wonderful and good, and that's part of it. But that's simple compared to the cultivation of the internal power. This takes years and years and years of dedicated, intense, specific practice, which the average person is just not going to devote to it. And also the ability just to find the knowledge of how to do these techniques is increasingly rare as well, as more of the old masters die off, and just as Chinese cultural history in general is very secretive. It's very hard to come across these things. So in modern practice, this whole aspect of martial application is largely non-existent. It's used for health, vitality, and that's fine. As I said, ultimately, especially in our modern day, that's more important anyway. Rarely are you going to have the need to fight somebody for real, but everyone can benefit from a long, healthy, well-lived life. Mindful embodiment is a big part of traditional practice, developing this inner meditative quality, whereas most of the modern practice is just casual, follow along, not getting too deep into the cultivating of a particular the particulars of your practice, but just relaxing and following along. It's all good, that kind of mentality. Again, it just depends on what you're trying to do. If you just want to get some relaxation and a little improvement to your health, this is perfectly fine. If you want to go into the alchemical practice, just be aware that you're going to have a lot of years ahead of you, a lot of study, a lot of training. It's very, 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 very rewarding, but also very, very intense practice. Here again, some of the benefits of Tai Chi practice, just even at the basic level. As you see, we see an improvement in balance, flexibility, and strength. Circulates and cultivates vital energy, qi, trains mind-body integration, which is very important, gets people back into their bodies. Very important in our modern culture where people are just out in their thoughts constantly on their devices or in virtual reality or thinking. And one of the, as I always say, probably the most common problem that people come to me with in my herbal practice is they can't sleep because they can't turn off their thoughts. They can't stop thinking. Well, Tai Chi practice is excellent for getting the thoughts back into the body, getting the mind back into the body, being able to feel and connect with your body again, grounding yourself, and releasing all of these crazy whirlwind of thoughts. It also excellent for coordination, developing your ability to move and breathe, flow with your body. Develops martial sensitivity and awareness. If you practice it in that way, you'll see often people doing what's called tuisho or push hands. So doing these exercises to develop an awareness, to develop the quality of connecting with an opponent, the quality of connecting with another object or person, which is very important for being able to perceive things in your own body and in your surroundings. And also, of course, just generally it promotes longevity and spiritual harmony, which are excellent things to have. Taijiquan, as we've seen, is not just a martial art, it's not just a philosophy, it's not just an exercise, it is a way of life. It's a lifelong path of self-cultivation, path of the alchemist. It is to constantly be refining and improving oneself. It is to be in harmony with the Tao, the natural way. The more we can align our lives in our way of being with God's natural law, the more we will promote vitality, health, and peace and prosperity in our lives. It transforms movement into meditation. Everything that we do becomes an act of meditation, and form becomes formless. Here again, the purpose of the movements, the purpose of the techniques, purpose of the choreographed uh, movements and practices that we go through is to cultivate these qualities in the body that we can then embody and apply to every aspect of our lives. And this is where we truly become an embodiment of Tai Chi, and it's no longer a practice that we do, but it's something that we live. And that's where the true value is gained. So Taijiquan is not about fighting others. It can be used if you train very well at it, but it's not about fighting, it's about mastering oneself, cultivating, continuously improving oneself. So, with that said, thank you for being here. Thank you for watching this far. If you're interested, be sure and join us. Begin your journey into authentic Tai Chi Chuan. One thing that we do here at Wholeo Awakening and Thunder Dragon Neigong is we seek to provide authentic practice, authentic knowledge from authentic lineages, and the materials that you need to be able to take your practice to whatever level you might desire, whether it's just for basic health and relaxation, or whether you really want to go into the full esoteric alchemical practices. We can help you get started on that path. So be sure and check out again the info and links that we have attached to the video, and we will see you again next time for another informational video. Be sure and take care and be well. We'll see you again.